but she was nothing more than a prostitute out of the brothel in Phoenicia. Others, see, he says Justin Martyr, Irenaeus, 2nd and 3rd century church theologians give testimony to this. So he gives one of these events here from one of their things, and that's all he knows about him. But he does pick up the preaching of Peter in Rome after that, which would pick up on the Pseudo-Clementine idea of Peter and Simon following each other and having confrontations in different cities. I think that's basically what he's picking up on there. None of this is in Acts, actually. I think the thing about Helen is interesting. I've always wondered about. Right after he talks about Helen, the queen of Adiabene, it's the very next chapter. Suddenly he says Simon Magus has a mistress called Helen. And we know Helen was interested in religious causes. We know Helen was interested in conversion to religion. Some say Christianity, some say Judaism. Simon is someone in the middle of these things too. He's a Samaritan, but he also is, he's a Rasputin sort of figure. If you know anything about Rasputin. And so if you know how powerful Rasputin was in the Russian court and the effect he could have, I mean, they thought he was copulating with all the Russian noblewomen in St. Petersburg or Moscow, wherever he was, St. Petersburg, I guess, and I'm sure he was. And he would get them under a spell, and I don't want to say that they were frustrated or something like that, but they were obviously not being seen to by in the way they felt they needed to be attended to, and so he had quite a following. And a lot of these religious figures do this Chuck Manson type of people. I mean, half of it is sexual, that they get a hold of a certain group of women followers, and they are some of those. Who is the one recently? Some of the ones out in the Mormon areas have quite a number of women in their entourage, and I think the guy down in Texas,
Koresh.
Huh?
Koresh,
I think he had, and that guy in who all committed suicide, and I've all forgotten about him in Jamestown. I think he had quite a few. Yeah, young, old women wanted to mate with him or breed with him or whatever. And you know, I mean, I'm not putting women down, but women are often attracted to people of prestige and power. I mean, you say, well, men are too. No, men don't get a hell of a lot out of it. You know? You say, well, I suppose it was the other way around. It was a woman of prestige, but yeah, the same thing would happen. Yeah, exactly. There would be some of these Hollywood actresses and other divas of that kind can snap their fingers and get as many men as they want, right? So, I mean, you know, it works both ways. But sex is often associated, sex is often associated with power. That you'll accept that, nobody will deny that. So, you know, and there's an aphrodisiac quality about it. They say, well, if I'm going to sleep with someone, I want him to be, you know, worth something. So we often measure them by the standards of the world in terms of monetary worth or fame, or and if this guy's just coming along and he's a plumber or something, well, why should I sleep with him when I can sleep with, you know, Mel Gibson or something? Not that I would want to, but the point is that I think a lot of people think like that. Now, you're women, half of you are women in class. I mean, is this, do you understand this emotion that women seem to feel?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a familiar emotion. Okay. And I can't speak for men because, you know, I've never lusted after Marilyn Monroe or anything. So, but I observed she suddenly appeared in the class and said, come on, Professor Eisenman, let's go for a little walk, or I guess I might be, you know, be susceptible. So I guess prestige and it's not something that you just turn away. Like anyway, Helen was in this person's entourage, and of course the slander was she was a prostitute out of the brothel of Tyre. But I'm not sure. I think that this is Queen Helen of Adiabene when she was looking around for spiritual interest. That's my personal feeling. I can't prove that. The two are in too close proximity. They pop up too readily. There's more going on here than meets the eye. That's all I can say. It's just a suggestion. I can't go any further with it than that, but I think it's a good one. Peter in Rome. some confrontations there, that entering the city of Rome, he sees, so I guess he meets Simon Magus. A lot of this is from the Pseudo-Clementines. He's some malignant spirit. There was a statue of him there, and I guess they had a confrontation. I don't know what to make of all that, except that there were competitive teachers running around the Mediterranean. Well, depending on which side you were on, some good, some bad. The other side's teachers were magicians. Your side were holy men. But I'm sure they didn't see their people as magicians and your people as holy men. They would have seen their people as holy men and your people as magicians. Just that you wrote the history, and as we know, when the victors write the history, the presentation is often on their side. Okay, now he says Mark was a companion of Peter, chapter 15. Okay, I'll accept that. So then we can say the Mark Gospel is from Peter's point of view, perhaps, if Mark wrote it and if we accept all the traditions about it. But in any case, that's a little interesting that Mark and Peter were in some manner associated. Whether they were or not, I can't promise you. Anyway, he attributes this to Clement. In the 6th book of his Institutions, we've had Clement before. This is Clement of Alexandria. And as I told you also, Clement is an Herodian. Is an Herodian, I think. Or not a Flavian, because he's called Titus Flavius Clement, which to my mind, you can't be called Titus Flavius Clement without being Flavian. So this is a later descendant of the same imperial family living in Egypt. So somehow they were being, and don't forget, we said Flavius Clemens, the original Flavian Christian, was a secret Christian. So this could be even a descendant. I think it probably is a descendant of Flavius Clemens. Since he was executed or something bad happened to him under Domitian, I assume his family went to other areas to, you know, for shelter. Again, I'm reading into it, but I think these are all sustainable suggestions. They may not be accurate, but it's the best I can do. And also another person tells us about this, Papias, who was bishop of Hierapolis. I think that's in Asia Minor someplace. Peter mentions Mark in the first epistle. That's why I think that they assume that Mark and Peter are associated. And he claims it's in Babylon, of course. But I think that's probably